Got all these games played. I didn't get those ones played. We'll be talking about these ones. There's a lot of really good games in here, and I saved the best for last. Game 1, Get On to Mike. This is a game that is supposed to judge you on your rapping skills, but it fails. I was planning on skipping this game, but went ahead and popped it in. It's no good. I was trying to figure out how to make a game that used a microphone because it sounds like something that wouldn't work, and it doesn't. This game just sort of guesses if you're singing accurately or not based on whether or not sound is going into the microphone. Absolute garbage game. Next up is Sing It! High School Musical 3. Luckily this one is sealed, so I couldn't play it. I'm sure it's also a garbage game. If these had been released as karaoke bundles without the gameplay elements, it would have been fine. Microphone games are officially stupid. The third game on this list is Sega Superstars. I thought this was a bundle of games from the Sega Saturn and Dreamcast. It was not, but it was still a pleasant surprise. It's an iToy game. In one part you get to play as knights and fly around the Nights into Dreams world. I absolutely love Nights into Dreams, and while I was expecting to be able to play the original game, this made me so happy. And then my arms got tired. The good iToy games are all pretty much the same thing with a different look, but this one is a good look. Number 4 on this list is Square Enix's Front Mission 4. See what I did there? This seems like it's a good game, but gray mech games bore the crap out of me. I despise this super generic look. It makes me want to take a nap. I love strategy games and I love deep customization, so I feel like this game should be right up my alley, but I can't get over how dull and drab everything feels. I usually don't care about a game's graphics that much, so I feel like a hypocrite here, but man, this doesn't work for me at all. I do like the game case though. Speaking of nice game cases, check out this one for Need for Speed Carbon Collector's Edition. That's a cool sleeve on the game case and the reason I picked it up at the game store when I spotted it. It's a racing game and it seems like it's lots of fun. What I didn't expect was a story and real actors. This guy right here, that's the guy who played Gadriel on Supernatural. Next up we have DICE, which stands for DNA Integrated Cybernetic Enterprises. I didn't realize it when I was playing this, but it's based on a Cartoon Network show. Cartoon Network games tend to be bad, but this one is okay. You control a robot dinosaur with a floating sidekick bot and you just sort of survive waves of enemy robots. I find that jump attacking robots off the edge of the stage tends to be the most effective. Game number 7 is SSX, the original snowboarding game in this series. I was hoping that this would be the one that pulled me into the SSX franchise, but I'm still not a big fan. I can see why people like these games, but I played a lot of cool boarders on the original PlayStation back in the day, and I prefer those titles. Maybe it's because of nostalgia, and maybe it's because they're better games. I don't know. It's been forever since I've touched a cool boarders game. I'm pretty sure I own at least one though. Maybe I need to do a comparison video sometime. Now we move on to Godai Elemental Force. This is one of the lowest rated games for the PS2 on Metacritic, but I think it's fun enough. You're this ninja guy and your goal is to beat up some people and survive some traps. Pretty straightforward. It's clunky and a little bit glitchy, but it's a hell of a lot more fun than Prism Chapter 1, The Dark Unicorn, which is currently my least favorite game on this system. Game number 9 is The Adventures of Darwin. Look at this cute game case. I thought this would be a fun little platformer game like Bonk's Adventure, but it's more like Nintendo's Pikmin games. You start out as this monkey and you can recruit other monkeys to follow you and carry things, but other than knocking down walls, attacking enemies, and eating food to heal, I have no idea what's going on. I looked through the manual to get a better understanding of what I was supposed to do, but it was kind of useless. This seems like a fun game, but it should have had a tutorial or at least an instruction manual that wasn't worthless. I'm sure there's a good game buried in here somewhere though. Let's talk about one of the pleasant surprises in this list, G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. I thought this would be a generic third-person shooter, but it's more of a dungeon crawler and shooter mashup. There's plenty of shooting at the enemy, but you also have a refillable shield. It will refill faster if you're behind cover, but all of these barriers are destructible. That may be my biggest complaint about the game. If you're going to give me cover to hide behind, don't make it disappear unexpectedly. I don't know, you can destroy the enemy's cover as well, but I wasn't a big fan of this aspect. The rest of this game is fine though. I doubt that this will get me any replay in the near future, but if this game sounds fun to you, give it a shot. It can be picked up for under $5. Time for an RPG. I found a copy of Tales of Legendia at a local game store for a reasonable price this month. I actually found 4 games there. I stopped into the Game Over location on South Lamar here in Austin and took a peek at the glass case where they keep their valuable PS2 games and saw a couple of games I wanted. I got excited and called the clerk over to grab the games out. A few minutes later, I had realized that my excitement had gotten to me. There were more games in there that I was after, so I had to call the clerk over again. Anyways, this game was not what I was expecting. I thought that I would be getting the standard turn-based battle system found in most JRPGs, but this one has a sort of 2D fighting game style to it. I didn't take the time to learn the system as I was just sort of sampling the game, so I can't say if it's good or bad. It seems okay, but I'm an adult, darn it. I don't have time for RPGs. Who am I kidding? Whatever Bethesda or CD Projekt Red releases next is gonna take over my life. Number 12 on this list is a fancy 2-pack called Call of Duty Legacy. I only played Call of Duty Finest Hour because the other game in this pack, Call of Duty 2 Big Red One, is still sealed. This is a fun third-person shooter game, but in the 13 minutes of playtime I put into this game, I hit a major glitch. This guy is supposed to die and drop his gun, which your character picks up to continue the scenario, but for some reason this wasn't happening. Call of Duty is a major franchise, and I'm surprised to see such a big mistake like this right in the beginning of the game. Other than that one glitch though, it's standard first-person shooter fare. Run around, duck for cover, shoot the enemy. Not a bad game, but there are plenty of other titles that don't break in the first 15 minutes. Now for another game that was a pleasant surprise. Rebel Raiders Operation Nighthawk. This game feels like an arcade version of a flight shooter. That is to say, it's a little bit like Ace Combat, but easier and faster. I expected this to be a bad and boring flight game, but it's a lot of fun. I like the style of the heads-up display in this game. This feels sort of like playing in a science fiction movie. Independence Day comes to mind. I guess the game is short and not very difficult, but as a used game that sells for around $3, who cares? It's fast and fun, and that's enough for me. Well, dear viewer, we need to talk about Fatal Frame. I'm not a big fan of survival horror games because I never find them scary or exciting. Fatal Frame taught me otherwise. This game is spooky as hell. I'm not going to tell you anything about the plot because I want it to be a big ol' scary surprise for you like it was for me. What I can tell you is that you'll be taking pictures of ghosts, which explains the name. I thought this game was going to use jump scares, but it's much better than that. Unexpected creepiness appears in strange places and makes for an unsettling game experience. If you are a collector, get this game sooner than later, as survival horror games seem to be the ones that are going up in price. Another game that is not what I expected is Shin Megami Tensei Devil's Summoner. I know that there are all sorts of genres under the Shin Megami umbrella, but I didn't know that action games were one of them. You still have guns, overpowering the enemy by knowing their elemental weaknesses, and recruiting demons, but action battles? Didn't know that was a thing. I need to figure out how many Shin Megami games there are for PS2 because I keep assuming that I'm almost done getting them all when something like this pops up. Unfortunately, this month I bought Fighter Maker 2. It's a horrible game with horrible controls that lacks any kind of enjoyment. What a joke that H-Tech charged money for this pile of crap. At the time of the making of this video, their website is also down. Just avoid anything with their logo on it is my professional recommendation. Game 17 is Warhammer 40k Fire Warrior. This is a first-person shooter set in the Warhammer 40k universe, and it's about as middle of the road as it gets. There's nothing that stands out about this game. It's not broken or boring, but it's also not flashy or interesting. My favorite video game magazine, PSM, gave this a score of 90, but I'm going to respectfully disagree. It's better than the Star Trek Voyager FPS, but not as good as Unreal Tournament. Okay, now we have to talk about MDK2 Armageddon. This is a strange one. It's a third-person shooter that's a sequel to a Dreamcast game. The graphics are subpar, but this title is so over the top and wacky that it's forgivable. The stage design is confusing, which is super frustrating, but when this game is fun, it's a blast. If the Tick and Aeon Flux had a video game baby, this would be that love child. Very strange. Next up, we bring in Bruce Campbell for Evil Dead: A Fistful of Boomstick. I love just about anything with Bruce Campbell in it, from Bubba Hotep, a movie about an elderly Elvis fighting mummies in a retirement home, to Evil Dead 2, the classic where he ends up trading his hand in for a chainsaw. Unfortunately, this game isn't much fun. It has some good lines from one of our favorite anti-heroes, but the gameplay is dull. Run around hitting monsters while looking for keys to unlock doors. VIS Entertainment had to know they were developing a bad game. Before this, back in the N64 days, they released a game called Tom and Jerry in Fists of Fury. Surprisingly similar title to this game. Weird. Now for the plot twist. The Makai Kingdom game guide that I ordered arrived in the mail. Look at how tiny this thing is. It's in fantastic shape and has these awesome little bookmarks that I can't bring myself to remove. Now, on that note, I still have some Ready Player One bookmarks in the car. Makai Kingdom is my favorite PS2 game of all time, and when I was making my last video about my favorite PS2 games, I decided to hop onto eBay and purchase this guide. Now for a game that confuses me. Duel Masters. I assumed this was a Yu-Gi-Oh game or something, but it turns out it's based on a separate anime, manga, CCG franchise. How strange. I love a good card game, but this felt pretty middle of the road to me. To be fair, I didn't put much time into this either, so it might get better. Please let me know in the comment section if this does become more interesting. I'm genuinely curious. Game 21 on this list is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelists of the Roses. This one is in fact a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, unlike Duel Masters. This game held my interest more than Duel Masters did. The battle system seems pretty dull, but the movement and placement tactics spice this game up. You can play monster and spell cards, but they're face down, so you never know what you're up against if you try to start a fight between two cards. You may just disable a spell, or you may end up doing battle with a giant monster. In a single player game against the computer, I doubt this would bring much strategy, but against real people, I'm sure there's loads of tactics to get under people's skin. Fun enough title, but Culticept gets my card game love when I need that fix. Dear viewer, do you like dungeon crawler games? I generally do, and I keep on finding more that I didn't know about on the PS2, like this game, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I thought all of the Nickelodeon games were platformers and kart racers, but then this title came out of nowhere. Like most of these games, I haven't played too far into this, and I understand that dungeon crawler games take a while to get interesting, so I don't have a whole lot to say about this. It seems cool, and I'm sure I'll put more time into it in the future. Also, my wife keeps telling me that I need to watch this show. I'll get around to it eventually. Next up, we have Motor Mayhem. Pick a car and drive it around while destroying the other vehicles. It's sort of a Twisted Metal kind of game with item pickups like health and specialized weapons. It's fun. I don't have much to say about it. What you see is what you get with this one. It doesn't really stand out, but who cares? Jump in and start firing away. This might be better as a multiplayer game. I'll have to make a friend sometime and find out. Now for Drakengard 2, a combo battle system RPG game released by Square Enix. I'm not super into this style of game, but if I were, I don't know if I'd play this or one of the Devil May Cry games, as both seem awesome. This truly looks like a Square Enix game, but it was actually developed by a company named Kavia, who has a strange selection of titles under their belt, from Nier Gestalt for PS3 to a Death Note game for the Nintendo DS and even Sega Bass Fishing. These guys are all over the place. Well, were all over the place. It looks like this studio shut down. Now for a big title, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. I just made a top PS2 games video where I declared Champions of Norath the best dungeon crawler before picking up this game. I can't say this is better than Norath, but I can say it looks awesome so far, and I look forward to playing a lot more of this in the future. Dungeon crawling in the D&D universe? That's kind of a perfect fit. We're getting close to the end, and now it's time to talk about Siphon Filter Dark Mirror. Whenever I think about playing a Metal Gear game, I'm immediately exhausted as those games are intense. I put this game off for a while because it seemed like it would be a similar situation, but I'm happy to report that this is a fun game that has that Metal Gear feel without being too difficult. I don't know if that makes this game sound better or worse, but I like it. You know, I've never tried a Siphon Filter game until now, and I can see why people like them. A+. Okay, so Funny story, I just sold off my copy of Lego Batman 3 because it was too confusing and linear. I was hoping it would be more like Lego Harry Potter, but no such luck. So what did I buy with the money from turning that game in? The original Lego Batman, of course. I can see a lot of similarities that this game has with the newest title in the franchise, and it's just fine. Lego games are pretty hit and miss. They're usually good, but they tend to feel samey. This one sits somewhere in the middle. It's better than the glitchy Lego Indiana Jones game, but it's not as good as the nearly perfect Lego Harry Potter release. I've been putting off grabbing the Lego games for my PS2 collection for some reason, but I suspect I'll be buying more in the near future. We'll see. This month has a sort of dungeon crawler theme that keeps on coming up. One of those games that I grabbed out of the glass case at Game Over was Champions Return to Arms, the sequel to Champions of Norath. The final dungeon crawler in the EverQuest universe, now with more classes to play as. I'm so happy to have this game in my collection. I decided to try out a Dark Elf Shadow Knight this time around. I look forward to killing my enemies only to raise them from the dead and have them fight for me. Ah, the joys of being a necromancer. Actually, I'm going to sneak in this update right here. I played this game with a friend last night and two things. First, I don't think my character can raise the dead, and second, I prefer the original Champions of Norath game. This title has a stage select screen and frustrating boss battles. If you decide to play this game, make sure you have a shield equipped for any boss fight, as blocking seems to be the only strategy to get past them. And now the most interesting game I scored in the month of June 2018, but first, let me show you the case for this game. Jade Cocoon 2 looks like it may be some bleak survival game or something based on this artwork, but it turns out it's a bright and interesting RPG with a sort of creature raising and fighting mechanic battle system. This game pulled me in and had me playing for far longer than I had planned. It's fantastic. I don't mess with RPGs very often and I keep meaning to get back to Dark Cloud 2, but this game, it's really interesting. I have no idea who decided to put that terrible artwork on the cover of the game, but that was a dumb move. This is a good game. Why not show us something that reflects what's in there? Maybe they were expecting players who had tried out the first game to be their biggest customers. I don't know, but it's a shame that this game isn't bigger than it is. Then again, I'm not super far in, so I can't speak for this game in its entirety, but so far it's perfect. I love the battle system, I love the characters, I love the story. I love the animal capture and nurturing mechanics. Just check out this intro.
My name's Nico. I'm a fairy from the dream world. It's somewhere between, heaven and earth. Anyway, you ever heard the story of Jade Cocoon?
How cute is that? This brings my total up to 493 out of 2014 PlayStation 2 games for a total of 24.478% of a complete collection, which is 0.522% away from hitting the 25% mark. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment. Thank you.